And you all should know that Little Beach Harvest is a cannabis company and brand owned by the Shinnecock Nation, located on tribal land, which was such a pleasant surprise for us the first time they came on. Y'all remember I was shocked. I was like, you look like Ray and them from the block. And they was like, yep, we Shinnecock block, son. So welcome back, Jay. It's a real pleasure to have you back here. Thanks for
I
being with us
really,
again.
I really appreciate you having me back a third time, and I'm back. Once again. I love it. I love the vibes. That's good energy. Good
Listen,
people,
we
and
rock with the
that's
Shinnecock
all what it's
Nation,
about.
okay? That's
That's
all
what
I
I
can
love
say is
to
we rock
hear
with y'all.
and feel, and I feel it, and I feel it, and something so pivotal that I've learned to move like when in this culture, in this cannabis culture, that and the way I want to move like is everybody has the same motivation. Everyone's doing it for the right reasons, and
Yeah.
everyone's clicked up the right way, and there's no negativity. And even when some people may not know something like someone else was, it's not a shun down, it's a build up. And that's the kind of environment that I want to set here, especially with my nation, because after I'm gone, I want this to still keep that same initiative. And
Yeah.
I really appreciate, you being in that circle that I believe in. I want to build outside of, what I'm saying, outside of Shinnecock, and build that kind of relation with. So I really appreciate you having me here again.
No, it is our pleasure. And, isn't it amazing that it's the cannabis plant that's bringing all of
Yeah,
these elements together?
yeah.
I just think
Uh,
that's super
it's
dope.
it's a social plant.
It is.
It's built on connectivity. So
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
any negative energy getting in there, your plant's dead. It's a wrap. So so that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. Now, the last time you all were on, you were preparing for a festival of sorts. It was an event that you all were putting together, and that's when we learned that y'all don't just sell cannabis. You also have these community events that
Events,
people who
yeah.
are perhaps not even a part of the Shinnecock Nation can participate in. How did that go? What was it? What was the energy like? And what was it like to be in a space where you're bringing both members of the Shinnecock Nation and neighbors from surrounding communities together to sort of celebrate all that the plant can do? How did that go?
So our event was in details, scaled out, done perfectly.
Nice.
We had to downsize a few things, but the collective itself and the bridging of the gap, beautiful. And we've kept
Mm.
that going all summer. We just recently finished up a movie night that we just did, where it's really cool to see. I was just saying to someone else, because you're bringing people to watch a movie they've already seen. You bringing people to do things they could do elsewhere, like have an event like the one we did, and
Right.
things like that. But you could bring them together, and everyone could do it together, and we could do it doing something that we like to do, and that's participate in consumption in some kind of means of fashion or form. But recreationally, it's ever and only been known, as I've seen and as I experimented with these things in hospitality, basically, because this is what this is ultimately becoming, is cannabis and hospitality, and seeing the gaps being filled and the bridges being connected of the people who look different from the people coming to the events, but at
Right.
the breaking point in time, they all meet up and they all link up, and they're here for cannabis, like how we talked about when you just brought, saying how we're all together now for cannabis. It's really amazing. And like last weekend's movie night filled with people, and I
Mm.
have brands come by, tribal brands that are new startups, entrepreneurs, people that have been in the game with us since we first opened up, and they'll come by and give gifts out to people and stuff. And it's really nice to see the reception. And
Yeah.
before for me, um it was really, I want to get all the outside people to come to these events. But really, when I see my tribal members come to these events, that's the support that I feel all right, now I can move another foot somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
more, and it's faces that you wouldn't expect to come, and like younger, older, so it's a mixture, and it's good to see that my tribe is being receptive to this, and understanding that this is something that's going to propel us in business. This is one of our first successful businesses as a tribe.
Wow.
So,
Talk
and
to
for
us.
me,
Can we talk about that part for just a little bit?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
the cannabis regulation and legalization effort in New York, my family home is in Bedford Stuyvesant, and I know
okay,
a lot of my neighbors are elders who were like, I can't stand the smell, and it's gonna
right,
cause. And there was a lot,
yeah,
and the way it was rolled out in New York City, they were trying with a lot of social equity, but I don't know if the messaging always landed the way that it needed to. But there was a lot of division about it. I just was speaking with a couple elders the other day who were like, I can't stand the smell of Brooklyn now. And I'm
right.
like, okay, it's not just Brooklyn. Like, let's be
No,
clear.
no, it's a
But
whole it's a
it's a
whole
whole thing. It's
demographic.
a whole
Yeah,
thing. And I respect the elders because, the elders
of
going to have their
course.
perspectives and I get it. But I'm curious because I'm wondering one, was there uniform appreciation within the Shinnecock Nation members
Hmm.
that you are in contact with for this project? Did you guys have tension in your respective block, if you will,
For
about
sure.
whether or not you should? Can you talk to us
Yeah,
about how
yeah,
you
absolutely.
navigated that?
There
Because
was
to go from
definitely,
tension, yeah, to go from the tension to now recognizing this is one of the most successful
yeah,
business enterprises, I feel like there's an important pathway there. Walk us through that.
for sure. There was both tension and reception. How
Mm,
you brought up to your knowledge of your elders being around, saying the smell and being able to be comfortable, and stigma. Once again, though, that's of being of indigenous descent and what that looks like, and then also being brown colored folks that don't look like your typical native that you'll see on a television screen, right?
right.
So it's knowing that there was lack of education within the cannabis plant. But once they received that, for the ones that didn't already know, don't get me wrong, like the other half, oh yeah, bring it on. Even if they didn't smoke, it was more of a, oh, is this gonna help our nation? Because that's really at the end of the day is what I love, that our people will put themselves before, I mean, put other people before themselves. And
Mm,
so it's basically like, is this, even if they don't participate, consume, never have, never will, that's okay. Don't want to be caught next to it. You know what I'm saying? Like walking out of the building, whatever the case. Some people are like that, but they still support it internally. Internally, meaning as though they will support you in the streets if they see you, tell you keep up the good work,
mm,
tell you to that kind of thing matters more to me as well, because
yeah.
that's them acknowledging that there's we're making headway. But the real where it all began was communication and understanding, does our tribe want this or do they not want this? So
Mm,
a survey was done amongst the tribe and more people were for it, and also with the positives of the time frame of when we're going to roll out into it and everything of that nature. So it became something more of like, all right, something to look forward to. We're going to build entrepreneurship for the other tribal members who want to create a brand, who possibly can't get a license elsewhere or whatever the case may be,
wow.
but we're going to get them a license through the tribe, and they'll be able to put their product in here from there. So it was really about what's going to come from here, and what's going to start here, and what's going to come from here in the
Mm,
future. And the most majority of the tribe was very for it, and then we went through rocky stages, of course, with our investors and people. So with our investors, us being high and dry, left alone now to start, well, to start and run this business, when we thought you had support, the tribe then became a little wary, like, oh man, what are we going to do? But people like myself and Sean and a lot of other people, Sean Boyd and Shanae Bullock and other members from other tribes who worked here, and other people, we just stepped up, and it was basically like, we're gonna make sure this gets done, and we're gonna make sure that this is something that is sustainable. And that's what I'm working on now. I'm actually now the executive operator for the dispensary. I run the dispensary for the tribe. Now I'm no longer a product marketing manager, but I still wear that
Okay.
hat. Yeah, I still wear that hat. I wear many hats. So it's really, but that's what's needed. Until there's
Yeah.
someone I could say like, yo, boom, 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 you got that. All right, bet. I'm gonna do it. So
Right. I
you guys,
definitely understand wearing too many hats, but sometimes
yeah,
you got to
you
do
got
it,
to
as you
do it.
just said.
But as a nation, I'm able to now say, "Here, you can wear this hat for a little bit," because they're also bringing in people because we obviously employ people from the nation to work here. They're getting the spirit. They're seeing how much I'm putting forward and for the
Mm.
nation. And they're like, "I'm here." Like,
Mm.
so that's really what it's about, and that's where it's transitioned from, well, from there to now. A
Yeah.
lot more support within, through the rocky stages of not knowing. It went like this. It went teetered, but
Mm.
regardless of the fact, we went through the fire, and we made it through, and now we're really a sustainable dispensary and tribe. And the projects that I have working forward is basically to create and longify that. It has to be longevity behind that, and
Yeah.
that's the goal. We're working on our facility right now. I'm getting the plans laid out to have our full cultivation site, because I think, like I told you before, we have satellite growers for the tribe currently as
Right.
is. So certain people who already have their brands, they grow for us and they grow for themselves, and then other members of the nation grow for us as well, or we source from other members from our partner in tribes, our sister and brother tribes, um,
Mm.
who we have a treaty pacts with, and so we're able to get flour from them as well. But right now, the most obvious cost and effective thing to do is have our own um, facility where we're able to do our
Mm.
processing and have our own brands. I have so many things lined up for our brand, because the thing is now of being open for almost 2 years now, right? We're going on
Yeah.
November 15th, 2023 was our opening date, right? Um, this is now where I realize this is not just a dispensary. We are also a brand. Little Beach Harvest is also a brand.
Let's pause there for just a minute, because
Yeah,
that journey that you just took us on is so
yeah,
important, I think, for people who don't necessarily have the same sort of infrastructure of a nation, right?
for sure.
So when I think about my neighbors who are upset about the smell, I would imagine they would probably have sat in communion with the
Yeah,
portion of your nation that was like, we
yeah, yeah,
on, we not with it. And then
yeah,
those of us who was like, hey, there's some potential here, some growth here, we would likely be sitting with folks like yourself who were
exactly.
like, no, we should think about this a little differently. The reason I'm saying this is because having the infrastructure of a nation allows you the ability to move differently, right?
Hmm.
You've got a different set of rules that you can operate by. You've got a different set of procedures you can follow that are already built in, not just for cannabis, but for community organizing generally. Your nation has a set of rules, I would imagine, has some cultural norms, some expectations, some things that you forbid, some things that you encourage,
Absolutely.
and you are a functioning unit, for better or for worse. And there are a lot of us who are outside of the Shinnecock Nation who share African ancestry, who have all of those things in common, but don't have the infrastructure of a nation state, of a grouping like that, to sort of facilitate those kinds of discussions. We're
Hmm.
neighbors, we're in
Hmm.
community, but we're not necessarily obligated in the
Right.
same way with legal bounds that hold us together. And that to me is a real significant nuance, because it allows for you all to have these discussions, to think about not just what could cannabis do for me as an individual neighbor in this community, but what will
Hmm.
cannabis do for us. There is
Yes.
a I do Kwanzaa every year,
Okay.
and on this show we talk
Yes.
about Kwanzaa. But you all have there's the couple Kwanzaa principles that I'm thinking about as I'm listening to you talk. I'm like, okay, that's umoja, that's unity. I'm seeing the unification, even though they don't all agree. There's unity.
Do
There's
you?
Kujichagulia, self determination. You are saying this is what we gonna do. We gonna set up
Yeah,
our own structure. We got our own licensing because we a nation. We
it's
sovereign.
very
You
nation.
got the Ujima, collective work and responsibility. How are you helping new growers, a part of the nation, figure out how to create their brand? Ujama, cooperative economics, which is where I want to sit, because this has also been a business venture. Would
Hmm.
you say, without obviously giving us any specifics, that would be within the proprietary space of the nation? We don't need that on
Yeah.
the airwaves, nor would I think you would give it.
No.
But would you just say, for if you're speaking to outsiders, more or less, has the financial realities as a result of this cannabis business, has it been such that it is to the benefit of the nation, or has it been a cost drain on the nation? Which would you say more describes how you all sit with the finances?
So only because of the investments that have been put forth that weren't covered the way they should
Mm-hmm.
have been at the very beginning, somewhat, I wouldn't say a struggle, but somewhere of an eye raiser. Like,
Sure.
watch out for that.
Yeah.
Now we're where we need to be and where we're gonna be and improve for further notion. It's
Mm.
definitely been, I would say, somewhere we're upwards of the numbers that look good on paper.
Okay.
So
That's good. I like how you did that. I like how you did that.
in our savings and everything else is upwards of where it needs to be, to where you can be like, now let's do something else. Now let's work on it.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's
Yeah.
when you're able to. I was always told, if you can't buy it twice, don't do it. so
Ooh.
uh
I
so that,
like that. That's a good
yeah.
piece of
My mom
advice.
taught me that. Yeah, if you can't buy it twice, don't even worry about it.
So I
Get
want to pause here because one word, shout out to your mom. Thank you for that
for
advice,
sure.
mom. We appreciate that. One of the things I want to pause here, because the reason I wanted to go down this particular pathway is because I feel like if we could, those of us who are outside of any formal nation formulation, it would be
Hmm.
really great if we could study, obviously with the respect and reverence for recognizing that we ain't gonna know all the things, but if there were a way for us to study how nations move, because when I'm watching how y'all move, I'm like, that's just highly organized. That's just
Yeah.
a highly organized infrastructure. And it feels like if we, those of us who are part of the African diaspora outside of the formal nation states, if we could figure out how to structure and organize ourselves, obviously without the same legal bounds as a nation would have, but with the same sort of intentionality, it feels like, and I remember when I was in law school studying various pieces of legislation that were
Hmm.
specifically designed to meet the needs of the indigenous population here, like ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act. And
Hmm.
and while it was very imperfect, I was like, wait a minute, black people need that.
Yeah,
That was before
100%.
I was aware that people like yourself existed, where you are
Yeah.
both African and indigenous. And
Yes.
then I would have, had I known that, I would have said black non-indigenous people. We need that. But there are so many things that I'm seeing that are attractive about the way in which nations are able to move. Cannabis just
Yeah.
being one of them. I know it's not perfect. I know y'all got to deal with your own
It's
levels
still
of
more work.
creativity when it comes.
It's, yep,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah.
But it
But
but it is very much, it's humbling to know that you have that support though.